The world shut down in 2020. Overnight, the familiar rhythm of daily life vanished, replaced by an eerie stillness that settled over the city like a heavy blanket. The hum of traffic, the chatter of crowds, the pulse of nightlife, all faded into silence. One day I was working in a busy retail store, surrounded by the constant movement of people, the beeping of registers, and the comfort of routine. The next, the doors were locked, and my job was gone. The store that once felt so alive was suddenly just another darkened window on an empty street. With bills to pay and rent due, I started driving for Uber. It wasn't what I'd planned, but it was the only option left to keep my head above water. The streets were empty like a ghost town. Every block I passed felt frozen in time, the city's energy replaced by a haunting quiet. I picked up nurses and grocery workers, essential people keeping things running. Their faces were tired, their eyes carrying the weight of the world, but they kept showing up, day after day. We talked through masks, sharing stories of worry and hope. Sometimes we sat in silence, the uncertainty between us louder than words. My car became my office, separated by a plastic shield, hand sanitizer always nearby. The back seat was both a lifeline and a source of anxiety. I cleaned after every ride, reminded constantly of the invisible danger. Every surface was suspect, every cough a warning. The silence between rides was the loudest part, giving me too much time to worry. I'd sit in my car, watching the city lights flicker, wondering what tomorrow would bring. My car was both my freedom and my cage. It gave me purpose, but also trapped me in a cycle of fear and uncertainty. Every passenger was a stranger, a risk I had to take. Each ride was a leap of faith, hoping that we were all doing our best to stay safe. Trust was fragile. Every ride was a gamble. I watched the rearview mirror, searching for reassurance in the eyes of people I barely knew. I had to believe people would be careful, but I never really knew. The uncertainty was a constant companion, riding shotgun on every trip. The world outside was quiet, but inside my car the tension was constant. Every mile was a reminder of how much had changed. I was grateful to be working, but the fear never left. Gratitude and anxiety became my new normal, woven together in every shift. Each ping from the app was a mix of relief and dread, another chance to earn, another risk to take. I learned to measure my days and rides, not hours. Each day blurred into the next, the city paused but never fully stopped. The world outside my windshield was changed, but life, in its own way, kept moving forward. I kept driving because I had no other choice. The road became my lifeline, a thread connecting me to a world that felt so far away. The world was on hold, but my life had to keep moving. Every night I drove through the uncertainty, searching for a sense of normalcy in the headlights and shadows. Every ride was a reminder, nothing was certain anymore. The future was a question mark, but I kept going, one ride at a time. And so, I drove on, into the unknown, hoping that somewhere down the road things would get better. At night the city changed. The essential workers disappeared, replaced by a stranger crowd. The city's secret life emerged, and I was its chauffeur. I drove people from quiet bars, late-night jobs, and secret gatherings. Each passenger was a story, a woman crying silently, a man claiming to be a time traveler, a chef tipping me with bread. Some rides were funny, some sad, some just bizarre, like the man who buckled a painting of a cat into the seat. The night shift was a theater, and I had a front row seat, but unease grew as the hours passed. Every dark alley and lone figure made me more cautious. I kept my doors locked, checked passenger ratings, and stayed alert. The night brought better pay, but also real risks. I never knew who would get in next. The city felt alive and dangerous after dark. I kept driving, always wondering what the next ride would bring. It was a late Friday night, deep into the pandemic. The city was supposed to be asleep, but I was still driving. My phone pinged. A new ride, good money, not far away. I told myself, just one more. The pickup was near an old, closed bowling alley on the edge of town. The area was deserted, the giant bowling pin sign dark. The place felt abandoned, like a scene from a scary movie. As I drove closer, anxiety twisted in my stomach. The streets grew darker, the silence heavier. I turned down the radio, alert to every sound. Every shadow seemed to move. I was about to pick up a stranger, alone in the middle of nowhere. My instinct screamed that something was off. But I needed the money, so I kept going. One more ride, I thought, just one more. I saw him standing there, half hidden in the shadows beneath a weak security light, just outside the reach of the glow, as if he didn't want to be seen. The parking lot was nearly empty, the silence broken only by the distant hum of traffic and the occasional flicker of the street lamp overhead. He was tall and thin, his hood pulled up tight, a backpack slung carelessly over one shoulder. There was something about the way he stood, rigid, unmoving, that made the air feel colder. He didn't move as I pulled up, just watched my car approach with an intensity that made me grip the steering wheel a little tighter. His eyes seemed to follow every movement, unblinking, as if he was sizing me up before even getting in. The app said his name was Derek, and he had a good rating, 5 stars even. But the situation felt wrong, like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. I double-checked the details, hoping for reassurance, but the unease only deepened. He studied my car for a moment longer, then finally slid into the back seat, silent and quick, barely making a sound. The door closed with a soft click that seemed to echo in the empty lot. He didn't say hello or confirm his name, no greeting, no small talk, just a heavy silence that settled between us like a thick fog. I asked, "Derek?" My voice sounded too loud in the quiet. He nodded once, barely perceptible, his face still hidden in the shadows. The destination was a neighborhood I didn't know, far across town, in a part of the city I'd never visited before. The route on the map twisted through unfamiliar streets, each turn taking me further from the comfort of the main roads. I pulled away, relieved to leave the empty lot behind, but the unease followed me, clinging to the back of my neck like a cold hand. The city lights faded as we drove, swallowed by the darkness. The silence in the car was heavy, almost suffocating. Every breath felt loud, every movement exaggerated in the stillness. I glanced in the mirror, just a shadowy outline under the hoodie, his features impossible to read. It was like having a stranger in my car, someone whose intentions I couldn't guess. The creepy place I'd tried to leave behind was now inside my car, filling the small space with tension. My heart thudded in my chest and I tried to focus on the road ahead. Every second felt stretched, every sound amplified. The ticking of the turn signal, the hum of the engine, the faint rustle of his jacket in the back seat. I wanted to break the silence, to ask him something, anything, but the words stuck in my throat. My mind raced with questions I was too afraid to voice. The ride had only just begun, but I already wanted it to end. Each passing streetlight cast new shadows, making the city outside look even more unfamiliar. I kept driving, hoping nothing would go wrong, wishing for the minutes to pass faster. The city felt endless, the destination impossibly far away. But the feeling of dread only grew, settling deeper with every mile, as if the night itself was closing in around us. The drive began in silence. I tried small talk, no response. He shook his head when I asked if he was heading home. The city felt deserted, just the two of us moving through empty streets. I turned on the radio, but the music only made the silence worse. We left the main roads for darker, unfamiliar neighborhoods. The houses grew older, the streetlights fewer. The GPS was my only guide, leading us deeper into nowhere. My hands sweated on the wheel. Fear crept in. I kept glancing at the rear view, but he never moved. He was a statue in the shadows. Every house we passed looked like a threat. My mind raced with worst-case scenarios. Who was this man? Where was I taking him? The road ahead was dark, and I had no idea what waited at the end. I just kept driving, hoping for daylight. The GPS announced, "You have arrived." The house was a wreck, dark, boarded up, overgrown with weeds. It looked abandoned, the kind of place from ghost stories. "This is it?" I whispered. Derek stared at the house, then finally spoke. "Wait here." It wasn't a request. He got out, moving silently, and walked to the door with a key. He disappeared inside, swallowed by darkness. I was left alone, frozen in my seat. My mind screamed at me to leave, but I couldn't move. What was he doing in there? Why bring me here? I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? So I waited, staring at the haunted house. The engine hummed in the silence. Every second felt like an eternity. I gripped the wheel, waiting for him to return. Minutes crawled by as I stared at the dark house. No lights, no movement, just silence and my pounding heart. I thought about driving away, but fear and curiosity kept me frozen. My imagination ran wild with what might be happening inside. I checked my doors, locked them again and again. The Uber app still showed the trip as active. I felt small and alone, trapped in a nightmare. Then, finally, the door creaked open. Derek stepped out, moving slower, holding his backpack tightly. He locked the door behind him. Something was different. He clutched the bag like it was precious or dangerous. He walked back to my car, every step heavy with tension. I braced myself, not knowing what would happen next. Every second felt endless. He got in, placing the backpack beside him. I heard a faint metallic clink from inside. The tension was suffocating. The app still waited for me to end the trip, but he hadn't given a new destination. "Where to now?" I asked, voice trembling. He stared at me in the mirror, eyes dark and empty. No answer, just a cold, unblinking gaze. Then he reached into his hoodie and pulled out a knife. The blade caught the dashboard light, glimmering. "Just drive," he said, voice flat and menacing. I was no longer a driver. I was a hostage. Fear took over. My hands shook on the wheel. All my worries vanished except for the man and his knife. I did as he said, driving into the darkness. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to keep moving. The fear, the glimmer of steel, and the endless road ahead were all I could remember. The world outside faded away, only the terror remained. The story doesn't end with me, it ends with what was found, and with the questions that linger in the darkness. Sometimes, the most haunting stories are the ones that never truly close, the ones that leave a mark on everyone who hears them. Days later, my car was discovered on a deserted country road, far from the city lights and the places I knew. It sat alone, as if waiting for someone to return, but no one ever did. The doors were unlocked, keys still in the ignition, my phone and wallet left untouched on the seat. It was as if I had simply vanished in the middle of a routine night, leaving behind only silence and confusion. The Uber app still showed the completed trip to the abandoned house, a digital breadcrumb that led nowhere. No messages, no calls, just a finished ride and a growing sense of dread. The only thing missing was me. My presence had been erased, leaving only questions and a growing fear among those who knew me. The car was wiped clean, no fingerprints, no DNA, no trace left behind. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing, leaving investigators with nothing but dead ends. Police investigated, but the house was empty. No signs of struggle, no evidence, just an eerie silence that seemed to swallow up any hope of answers. The passenger, Derek, was a ghost. Fake account, stolen card, no real identity. Every lead unraveled into nothing, every clue dissolved into the night. My family searched, desperate for answers. My story made the news, sparking fear and speculation, but soon the headlines faded, replaced by newer tragedies. Other drivers grew cautious, sharing warnings and uneasy glances, but the world moved on. The city never sleeps and neither do its secrets. The pandemic continued, and people kept driving, chasing fares through empty streets, always hoping their next ride would be just another ordinary trip. My story became a warning, a ghost story among drivers. They whispered about the night I disappeared, about the dangers that lurk behind a stranger's smile. What happened after I drove away? No one knows. The road swallowed me whole and the night kept its secrets. Derek vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only questions and fear. His trail went cold and he became just another phantom in the city's underbelly. I became a ghost story myself, a cautionary tale for those who drive through the night, trusting strangers with their lives. The Uber driver who picked up the wrong passenger and was never seen again. My name became a warning, my fate a mystery, a chilling tale, a story without an end. Some say you can still feel my presence on lonely roads, a reminder that not every ride has a safe destination. And the night shift rolled on, always waiting for the next ride, always wondering who might be waiting in the shadows.